Hello everyone, and today we'll be presenting our report about workplace assessment about a certain wooden furniture manufacturer. So, what company are we talking about specifically? The company in question is Kapal Wood Industries Sdn Berhad. They are a company located in Muar, and they have over 300 staff. Um, they mostly specialize in uh, furniture sets, wooden furniture sets, such as tables, bedrooms, and chairs, and so on. And today we'll be analyzing one job test they do from that company, and make a workplace assessment report on their job test to analyze, identify, and assess the hazard and risks involved in that job test. So, what particular job test we've been as analyzing? So, the job tag is um, wood cutting with machinery tools. So, what machinery tools you're talking about? Mostly table saws, or those big wood choppers, or something like that. So we will be going over uh, what kind of hazard if we should anticipate with this machine sensor, and hazards a hazard that comes from using these machines. And with that, I would like to give to my colleague. Thank you.
Okay, good morning, Ms. Farah. My name is Nelson Marius, and today I will present about risk assessment. Assessment is terms that used to describe the overall process or method where you identify the hazard and risk factor that have potential to cause harm to human. Risk assessment also used to analyze and evaluate the risk that link to the hazard and determine appropriate way to eliminate the hazard or use the another method of control measure. And assessment have some terms that use in assessment like hazard identification, risk analysis, risk evaluation, and risk control. Okay, we can proceed about risk assessment. And risk assessment is the overall process of hazard identification, risk analysis, and risk evaluation. And identify hazard is the process of feeding, listing, and characterizing the hazard. And risk analysis is the process for comprehending the nature of hazard and determining that level of risk, and provides a basis of for risk evaluation and decision makes about risk control, have the information including the current and historical data, theoretical analysis, informed opinions, and the concern of stakeholder, and include the risk estimation. And second is risk evaluation. This is the process of comparing and estimate risk against given risk criteria to determine the significance of the risk. For example, comparing the data with the old and current estimate to identify the flaw on the situation or about the hazard that happens. The last one is risk control. Risk control is the action take or the action implementing risk evaluation decision. Risk control can involve monitoring, re-evaluate, and compliance with decision. And we can talk about importance of risk assessment. Risk assessment can help to create awareness of hazard and risk, and can help to identify the hazard that may accuse, and also determine whether and control measure is required to particular hazard. And risk assessment is very important to determine of extinct control measure are adequate or is more should be done and also have prevent injury or illness. And second one is when there is assessment need. There are assessment needed before new process or activities are introduced and before change are introduced to existing process or activities. Need when product produce machinery, tools and equipment change or new information consuming harm becomes available. And lastly is we can talk about likelihood, severity, and risk matrix. And the first one is likelihood. Likelihood is to find likelihood is based on the likelihood of an event occurring. For example, may ask the question, suggesting likelihood is based on worker experience, analysis, or measurement. And this is a level of likelihood. The first one is inconsiderable. Is is particularly impossible and has has never occurred. And level two is remote has not been known to occur up to many years. And considerable may be occur at sometimes in future. The level four is possible, has a good chance to occurring and is not usual. And level five is most likely. The most likely result of the hazard event being realized. And the second is severity. Severity can be divided into five categories. Severity are based upon an increasing level of severity to an individual's health, the environment, or the property. And severity we have five level, and the level one is negligible, minor obstruction, bruise, cuts, post-age depth injury. Level two is minor, disabling but not permanent injury. And the level three is serious, non-fatal injury, permanent disability. And level four is fatal, approximately one single fatality, major property damage if hazard is realized. And level five is catastrophic, is a numerous fatalities, incurable property damage, and productivity. And we can talk about the last is the risk matrix. Risk matrix to use this matrix, first find severity columns that describe the outcome of risk. Follow the likelihood row to find a description that best the likelihood that the severity will occur. The risk level is given in the box where row and column meet. The relative risk value can use to necessary action to effectively manage workplace hazard. Oke, di sini kita dapat lihat di mana label likelihood dan label severity. Oke, sekiranya likelihood mendapat label 1 dan likelihood ini merupakan contohnya dalam satu company. Ini adalah satu case yang jarang dijumpai ataupun jarang berlaku atau mustahil perkara itu berlaku, dan kemungkinan dan label severity merupakan ini sebagai contoh injury ataupun insiden yang berlaku merupakan macam contohnya sebagai contoh luka ataupun lebam. Ini adalah contoh untuk level 1 untuk severity. Dan ini kemungkinan jarang berlaku. Ini adalah dalam satu company. Dan untuk level 5, likelihood level 5, dan kita lihat apakah level untuk severity. Oke, sebagai contoh, dalam satu company berlaku satu insiden di mana likelihood dia adalah merupakan kemungkinan bahaya yang merupakan sangat besar, dan severity dia mendapat ukuran yang ataupun level yang sangat tinggi, yaitu level 5. Ini sebagai contoh insiden adalah dalam level 5 ini adalah seperti kebakaran kilang ataupun letupan subak kilang yang boleh mengakibatkan ramai pekerja yang meninggal dunia dan mengakibatkan pemusnahan yang fatal dan banyak kerugian yang dialami oleh company. Dan itu adalah contoh perbedaan antara likelihood level 1 dan level 5, begitu juga dengan severity. Itu adalah contoh bagaimana untuk mengira level likelihood dan severity untuk mengetahui kejadian yang berlaku dalam satu company. And that's all for me. Thank you.
Okay, hi, Assalamualaikum, and a very good evening to everyone. So today I will be presenting hierarchy of controls. So for further explanation, I will share the screen and show you the slide so that you could understand better lah. So basically, my topic is about hierarchy of control, which will be presented by me, Muhammad Khalif Rashdan. So these are the explanation. So the definition of hierarchy of control is the idea for control methods are potentially more effective. We could see as the graph go from elimination, substitution, engineering control, administrative control, and last is PPE. So following this hierarchy normally leads to implementation of a safer system where the risk of illness or injury has been reduced. So for that, as we as a group has decided to take up on a furniture company called Keppel, which is a wooden company. So I will explain on the recorded video, which is this, in more detail, so you all could understand which is the right control measure for the certain hazard. So the examples of hazard is physical, chemical, biological, and so on. So as we can see, this is the table of the hierarchy of control, which is the first elimination, substitution, engineering control, administrative control, and lastly is PP. So each and every one has been defined to do their own job, which is the first one is physically remove at the hazard. The second one is replace the hazard. And the third one will be isolate people from the hazard and change the way the people work. And lastly is protect people by using PPE. Okay, so we go to the hazard with the right control measure. So as we know, there's a few hazards, which is like I said just now, physical, chemical, economic, so on. These are the further explanation for you all to understand which control measure best suits it up. So for physical, I myself has choose engineering control as well as PPE because when we are using machine, we need to we need to install with guards and railing to prevent debris, which will not affect us on our health. And for PPE, for workers who are operating the machine, so they need a safety glasses and safety gloves lah. That's the most important thing for a machine so that they could not cut or anywhere. So the second one is chemical hazard. Chemical hazard, I tend to choose engineering, administrative, as well as PPE because it's a chemical, so you need to reduce a lot of risk of the saw that you're cutting, so it will pop up dust all over. So you have to the installation of local exhaust ventilation should allow proper ventilation to the workplace and removal of saw dust at any particular in the air. And to the next one, which is the administrative control, through maintaining proper housekeeping, like sweeping the dust and everything, so that it reduce the buildup of the dust workplace floor. And finally, we use PPE such as air filtration mask to protect ourselves as well. So we're going to the third one, which is economic hazard. For this one, I have chose administrative control, such as a routine checkup on your health, because ergonomic is more to your most of the people in this world have uh, sleep disc. So you need to go routine checkup on your health of the workers and implementing adequate break time. So you can't work like 8 hours straight. You need to have like lunch hour, break for a while, and tea time or what, so that your health is consistent when you are doing that job. The fourth one is the biological hazard. So biological is like I have chose a combination of elimination and PP, because the elimination of fungus and mold through using chemical cleaning solution to remove and kill and fungus and mold in the wood. And by that, what I meant was, by using chemical cleaning solution, it could remove all the fungus or any mold in the wood lah. And for PPE, we use air filtration mask as well, and glove should be provided to be used for the workers as well. And lastly, psychosocial hazard, implementation of administrative control, such as having workplace counseling. So that is my part. I will give it to the next presenter. Thank you so much.
Okay. Assalamualaikum and greetings to my lecturer, Miss Farah, and to all those watching my presentation right now. So for today, I'll be presenting on the hierarchy table for the company that we have been doing our research on, which is the Keppel Wood Industry Sendirian Berhad, as well as the prioritization of hazards based on the risk value conducted in the hierarchy table. So without further ado, please allow me to present to you my slides. All right, okay. Okay, before I start presenting my hierarchy table, I would like to explain the objective of a hierarchy table. The objective of a hierarchy implementation is to identify all factors that may risk workers towards an accident. Consider the possibilities of hazards that may occur under any circumstances and conditions, and enable workers to plan, introduce, and monitor preventive measures against the risk of occupational injury. So here, as you can see in my second slide, this is a rough view of most of the hierarchy form being done by companies. So in a hierarchy form, there would be the name of the company stated here, the process or the work activity that is being conducted by the company, and the approval or the conductor of the hierarchy table would be stated here as well in the hierarchy form. So as you can see, the name of the company that we are doing our research on is the Keppel Wood Industries Sendirian Berhad. The process would be the wood cutting process, approved by and conducted by are also being stated inside here. So in my next slide, this is the hierarchy table that has been conducted by them, which I shall be explaining to you one by one based on the work activity stated. So in the first table, you can see the work activity being stated there is the loading of the machinery with woods on it. The hazard in this activity that has been identified would be the cutting blades, which can cause cuts or first aid type injury towards workers. And being stated inside here as well, the existing risk control for this work activity is the implementation of safe work practice. So they also have recommended a risk control measure by using an addition of PPE, personal protective equipment, which is the usage of leather hand gloves to ensure more safety towards the hands while doing the activity. So based on the risk analysis done here, the likelihood score for this activity and for this hazard to occur would be a score of 4, while the severity would be a score of 1, which total up to a score of 4 for the risk value in this work process. So for the second work activity, the work activity being done here is the operation of the machinery, which the hazard identified would be an unguarded machinery that could cause hand to get caught into rotating parts, or in other case, it could cause amputation. Uh, by stated here, the existing risk control that has been implemented would be a safe work practice, as well as a daily pre-use check and regular maintenance of the machinery. But then they have also recommended a risk control measure by fixing the L guard to ensure that this hazard could be prevented. Um, So by the risk analysis table here, we could see that the likelihood score for this hazard to occur would be a score of 4, while the severity score would be a score of 3, which total up to a score of 12. This score can be considered as a medium risk value for the hazard and for the work activity being stated here, which is the operating of the machinery. In accordance to operating of the machinery, another hazard has been identified here, which is there would be flying fragments which could cause serious cuts and eye injuries by the flying fragments of the blades that breaks during the cutting. Uh, they have implemented an existing risk control by putting warning signs and trainings to use the blades during cutting. But then they also recommended a new risk control measure by using a stronger blade and by fixing the L guard to ensure that the blades won't break off, which could cause serious injuries to workers. In the risk analysis being stated here, the likelihood score for this work activity to occur, for this hazard to occur, would be a score of 4. Meanwhile, the severity score will be a score of 3, which total up to a score of 12, which also can be considered as a medium risk value for this work activity. So to continue, the third work activity being stated here would be the unloading of cut wood, which the wood can be considered as a heavy load that could cause muscular strain and back pain to workers. So previously, they implemented a manual lifting procedures, but in our modern era, they have recommended a new risk control measures by the implementation of the usage of mechanical lifter. So in this case, the likelihood score for this hazard to occur would be a score of 3. Meanwhile, the severity score for this hazard would be a score of 1, which total up to a score of 3 for the risk value in this hazard. And finally, for the last work activity being done here, which is the repair and maintenance of the machinery, the hazards identified here would be an unguarded machinery as well as an unsafe work practice being done here. This matter could cause serious cuts from blade and getting caught in rotating parts if the machine is accidentally started. In this case, they have implemented a cover on button and as well as a safe work practice. But then they also recommended a new control measure, which is to make a delay start button to ensure that this hazard won't cause any injury to other workers. So based on the risk analysis being done here, they have stated a likelihood score of 4 with meanwhile a severity score of 3, which total up to a risk score of 16, which is considered as a high risk value for this work activity. So to conclude, a prioritization of hazards must be done based on the hierarchy table stated here. So before I start explaining on the prioritization of hazards, in prioritizing hazards, there is no right answer. And there will be a number of hazards that are considered to be more serious than others. Thus, hazard prioritization should be used as a guide to make decision making and modified to suit the requirements of a particular communities, which in this case would be in the wood cutting process. So here, as you can see in my slide, the prioritization of hazards are being made and stated as below. Based on the risk value stated, the most prioritized hazard would be on the unguarded machinery and unsafe work practice during repair and maintenance of the machine. This is because the hazard can cause serious cuts from blades and getting caught in rotating parts if the machine is accidentally started without proper precautions. This can lead to major injuries as well as death. Thus, the risk value for this hazard will be the highest based on the detailed calculation from the risk analysis. The second prioritization would go to the medium prioritized hazards, which will be on the unguarded machine and flying fragments during the wood cutting process. This is because the hazard can cause our hand to get caught into rotating parts, which could lead to amputations. This hazard can also cause serious cuts and eye injuries by flying fragments of blades that breaks during the wood cutting process. And finally, the least prioritized hazard would be on the heavy load and cutting blade activity during the loading and unloading of the machine or the wood. This is because the hazard would cause cuts or first aid type injury and muscular strain or back pain. This effect is less severe compared to the previous hazards mentioned before. So that is all by me. So I shall finish my presentation here. Thank you and have a good day.